Welcome into Tips for Gamers, and today we're going to be breaking down which college football team has the most X factors in Madden 23 with the list we have so far. We're also going to be doing a video talking about which college football team has the most superstars as well in the future, and then combining them both just to see which one totally reigns supreme. Just understand that this list will change throughout the years. Madden changes. We're going to be updating this in the future as well. We'll probably do it in segments in the middle of the year and then at the end of the year. And then what we're going to do is we're going to keep this database and then use it throughout the future. And of course, guys, if you guys like the video, like it for us, leave us a comment down below. It helps us out, and we can't thank you enough. And if you guys want the written version of this is going to be in the link in the description below. You guys can actually see our article on this, and you can see it for yourselves in what we're going off of. We're also going off the source. It's gamesradar.com. They had the inside scoop, supposedly, so we're going to be using that list up until Madden comes out. Madden 23 comes out, obviously. So check for that in the link in the description below as well. Now, we're not going to go over every single college with just one football player in there because this list is comprised of mainly just colleges with one player in there. If you want to see the full list, click on the link description below for our article, and you'll be able to see all of the colleges with just one player in there. But some of the most notable ones that we'll go over is like Alabama. They only have Derrick Henry in there, which is really shocking because Alabama wins the most championships. They're not the most winningest program of all. That's Ohio State. However, Alabama, ever since Nick Saban, has been just insane. So you would think that they'd have more players than just Derrick Henry. Kind of a shock to us. And make sure to check out our brand new Minecraft resource pack called T4G's Builder Pack. It is the most realistic Minecraft resource pack for Java Edition. We have stucco, great wood, amazing doors that will only get better, and bricks that will shock you. If you or anyone you know plays Minecraft, make sure to share a pack with them or check it out yourself. It can be found in the links in the description below. You can find out how to download it on our Patreon, and you can also see the video in the links in the description below as well. Clemson is another one. They only have D-Hop right now. Clemson's a tough program. They're very good, and they're always competing for one of the top spots. Last year, they had a very bad year. We'll see if they can recover. But Alabama and Clemson are both schools that this list could fluctuate. They could get guys in a superstar X-Factor role pretty quickly. So this list, I expect it to change in some of these schools to change in rankings. Another really crazy one would be Georgia. Georgia has Nick Chubb in, and Georgia really produces a lot of football players into the NFL. I mean, Georgia is definitely a pipeline to the NFL, just like Alabama, just like Clemson. And to see them only have one guy up there is pretty shocking to us. You also have Michigan with only one player, and that's Tom Brady. He's, an older football player, no question about it. I think he might even be the oldest football player in pro football right at this moment. And if not, there's probably a kicker who's older than him or something like that if there is one. But I don't know if there is one. I think he's the oldest. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments down below. Nebraska is another one with Levante David, a little bit older player. Both of these programs get a lot of NFL talent. There's no question about it. But they are struggling once they get into the NFL to really reign supreme. Oklahoma is another big one too. They only have Kyler Murray. Oklahoma's not really known for their defense, more known for their offense. You're going to see more offensive weapons come out of Oklahoma that are going to be superstars and X Factors. Then you're going to see defensive players. Oregon is another one as well. A lot of NFL talent comes through there. You got DeForest Buckner for the Colts. Huge, man. Absolutely huge. He's got mittens for hands. Those things are humongous. Penn State is another one that's a shocker. Penn State produces a lot of NFL talent. You got Saquon Barkley. You got a lot of players that come from Penn State on both sides of the ball that are absolutely monstrous. You got Parsons, right outside linebacker for the Cowboys, who's just so dominant. Anyone from the Big Ten could have told you that. Very, very dominant program and very hard to beat. So we're going to go over the teams that are tied for third place with two players that are X Factors. Now, the first one we'll talk about is Louisville. We got Jair Alexander, cornerback for the Packers. He's one of the top three best cornerbacks in the NFL, in our opinion. The guy is a monster. And then you have Lamar Jackson, quarterback of the Ravens. So you would think, that maybe they would not have as many as Alabama or Georgia. So it's kind of a shock that they actually have more than both those schools as it sits right now. Louisville, who you never think is a national championship team, they just don't quite get to that level, have more X factors than Penn State, which can change drastically over the course of this year, Alabama, which can change drastically as well, and Georgia. Pretty shocking there, but good job, Louisville. And the next team that is tied for third place is Mississippi State. Chris Jones, D-tackle of the Chiefs, is on that list with Superstar X Factor. And supposedly, who is moving on up this year is Dak Prescott as well, quarterback of the Cowboys. He is going to be a Superstar X Factor, supposedly, and now Mississippi State is sitting in a better spot than Alabama, Georgia, and Penn State. Really crazy to think about that they're tied with Louisville. You just wouldn't, if I were to make guesses, I would not make that guess. Especially if I was betting money on it, I'd be like, that's not. I would choose Alabama. I'd choose the basic schools, but Louisville and Mississippi State, that would not be the two that I'll go with. So next, we're going to talk about the teams that are tied for second place. These teams have each 3 players that are Superstar X Factors. 3. Now, the first team we'll talk about that is tied for second place with 3 players is Wisconsin. They got Russell Wilson, quarterback of the Broncos, on this list. You know what's really shocking, though, is that they have no offensive linemen on here because Wisconsin is known for big old hog mollies, big old beasts, and none of them are on this list. Doesn't mean that they're not high overalls, doesn't mean that they're not superstars. However, that's what they're known for, and there's not one of them on this list, which is crazy. But how many Superstar X Factor linemen do you actually come across in Madden? So do they really give them the respect that they deserve? Not really. That's up for debate. The other guy on this list is Jonathan Taylor, running back for the Colts, one of the best running backs in the league at this moment in time. Wisconsin's also known for producing high-end NFL running back talent. It's kind of like Georgia, not as good as Georgia in that regards, but pretty close. They're also known for the Watt brothers. TJ Watt made it onto this list, outside linebacker for the Steelers, if you guys didn't know. And if they had his older brother on this list as well, JJ Watt, they would have had 4 Superstar X Factors on this list and been tied for first place. The next team on that list is Texas A&M. They got Von Miller to start it out, and according to Nick Saban as well, they got that oil money that they're paying. He didn't say oil money, but that's my guess. They got that money they're going out and paying for all their players. They did have the #1 recruiting class of last year. Von Miller, I don't know if he got any of that oil money. You should definitely tell us if he did. But you should go try to get some, too. Now they owe you. Myles Garrett also made it onto this list, right in for the Browns. Skull Crusher is what we like to call him. And then you got Mike Evans, wide receiver of the Buccaneers, on this list, which is crazy. Mike Evans is actually on this list. I think Mike Evans is really good, but to say he's an X Factor, I don't know. I mean, he's obviously really, really, really talented. I don't know how you cover that guy, but there are guys like Marshawn Lattimore that cover him. Anyways, this is not about whether they should be on the list or shouldn't be on the list. I just like to share my opinions, and I'm kind of confused that I'm like, that guy's a give or a take for me. I mean, I can't say that it's a guaranteed. Myles Garrett and Von Miller, there's no question in my mind. You can't question that. Mike Evans, you can question a little bit. The next team on the list is Florida State. You got Derwin James Jr., strong safety of the Chargers. He's had some injury issues as of late. It could be a series of unfortunate events for him, too. Football's a very nasty sport. Look at Sam Bradford. The dude, tore both of his ACLs. The guy would, walk down the sidewalk, somehow sprain a shoulder. I mean, it just was so sad to see how many injuries that happened to him. But the thing about Derwin James is once he's on the field, he's obviously lights out. He is a very nasty football player, very dominant. The next guy on the list is Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey is by far the most dominant cornerback in the league at this moment in time. He is basically lab created, because if you were to go to a lab and you were to create the best cornerback you could, you would basically come out with Jalen Ramsey. This guy's got the size, the speed, the brains, and the willpower to beat up on a lot of very talented wide receivers in the league. He is the type where he is going to beat you, then tell you how he's beating you, and then show you can't do anything to stop it. This guy is ruthless. The next guy on the list is Dalvin Cook, running back of the Vikings. No one ever said about Dalvin Cook that he was ever fun to tackle. Not even in his Pee-wee days where he was getting the orange slice and the Capri Sun on the sidelines at halftime. No one ever said that all the way up to his college and then his NFL days. No one wants to tackle Dalvin Cook because he is basically handing out CTE to whoever wants to try. The next team that is a shocker for me is California. Aaron Rodgers made it onto the list, obviously, because he is one of the most dominant quarterbacks to ever play the game. Next up, you got Keenan Allen, wide receiver of the Chargers, who has a beard for days. This beard is intense as hell, and dude, it's a good beard, bro. Cameron Jordan also made it onto the list for the Saints. He is a monster. Cameron Jordan's been a monster for a very, very long time. And now we are going to bring you the teams that are tied for first place. The first team that we're going to talk about is the Ohio State, with 4 players on the list. And honestly, they could have up to 6 players on this list, because there are some really good Ohio State players that are playing right now that could end up bumping this list up and kind of making it ridiculous. They got Joey Bosa, outside linebacker for the Chargers, who basically is just chasing the quarterback, and he was so much fun to watch in college. He is one of the players who helped Ohio State beat Alabama for the Natty, to end up going to play Oregon to win the Natty, but he was a part of that team. And now he's a part of the Chargers, and he's been a beast ever since. Then you have a new guy coming in who ended up getting drafted late, and that's Terry McLaurin, a wide receiver for the Commanders. He ended up getting drafted late. The Commanders literally got the best draft that you could have had at that moment in time with picking him up, because he ended up being lights out, and they saw something in him, and it paid off. The next guy on the list is Nick Bosa. Not a shocker that both Bosa brothers are on this list for Ohio State. He's for the 49ers, and he's got the biggest legs I've ever seen. He's got bigger legs than his older brother Joey Bosa, even though he probably doesn't want to admit it. And Nick Bosa is just a monster. And the last guy on the list is Cameron Hayward, end for the Steelers, right end for the Steelers. He is a monster. His production's been so good for so long. He's like Cameron Jordan, where they've just been so productive throughout their NFL career. And the only other team that is tied for first place with Ohio State is LSU with 4 players. LSU is like Ohio State when it comes to, they're always, looking to win the national championship. LSU is not as consistent as Ohio State. However, they are consistently producing high-octane NFL talent. No question about it. They got Tre'Davious White, cornerback of the Bills, on the list. Not a shock there. The guy is a monster. You got Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, strong safety of the Saints, who used to play for the Chiefs. He's getting a little bit older, but his body doesn't seem to realize that, because the guy is still lights out. And then you have Hunter, left end for the Vikings. And he's not the only Viking on this list as well for LSU, but Hunter's a beast. There's no question about it. The guy is a beast. Watch him play, and you can obviously see why he's a monster. And then you have Justin Jefferson, wide receiver of the Vikings, and he is lights out. His dance moves are spot on, but his play is even better. Both lights out. So this is our list, guys, and it's pretty insane to actually think about which colleges made it in the top, and which colleges did not. And this list is obviously going to change throughout the years, and maybe even throughout this year, you will likely see some changes. And you'll see teams like Alabama produce more. Penn State, you got Saquon Barkley, who used to be an X Factor, who isn't now supposedly, who could easily get that back. You got Alabama, who has plenty of guys on the field that could easily get an X Factor with 1 or 2 good seasons. You also have teams like Georgia, who just had one of the biggest drafts in the history of drafting. With producing as much NFL talent as they produce, you're likely going to see that list change and more competition for LSU and Ohio State.
High ambitions and the right mind can take you so far. It's like you lived a few lifetimes. Take off from a break off from the weak minds. They can stay soft. You can change lives. You create thoughts. Never waste time. You got one shot. You got one life. Better pop off. What do you like?